want to take staff on an all expenses paid European study tour that would cost them $40,000 each, and they want to charge their ratepayers this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to A Different Opinion. Today we're going to be looking at a couple of things, all right? So this will be the first video of probably a few, because this one involves Australia. So not close to where I live, but still a part of the country, which is in Western Sydney. In Penrith, where there's, a lot of people live there, right? And it's maybe not the, let's just say, not the flashiest place, not the most high earning place. And yet it's still not cheap to live there, because obviously we have a bit of a cost of living problem here in Australia, as most of the world does. Wherever you go around the world, people are struggling because the money isn't going up, but the interest rates, the inflation, everything is going through the roof. And to buy houses and to buy normal things which people could afford, let's say 30 years ago, people nowadays are struggling to put that on the table for their family, or put a roof over their heads, with homelessness just going through the roof. And I'm not defending homelessness, because a lot of times people do it to themselves, but it's for the ones that try to provide, but they just can't afford certain things. Because I know even in Auckland, when I lived in Auckland in New Zealand, there's so many families that live there that just moved over, let's say, from wherever they come from, and they're living in cars with their families. Some are families of 5, some are families of 8. And a lot of times they got to maybe rent a single room studio or something like that, and then 8 of them live in that single room studio just because of the absolute ridiculous price of rent in Auckland City. Because when I lived there, a normal house, let's say I think it would have been $350,000 maybe. It jumped up to about $700,000, and I'm not kidding, in about a year and a half to 2 years, just with certain decisions the government made. But anyway, that's for another time. This one here, so in Penrith, Western Sydney, in New South Wales in Australia, Penrith Council outrage over plans to send staff on an all expenses paid European study tour that would cost taxpayers $40,000 for each person that goes. Look, I just went to Europe in January, and I'd have to say and I went for probably just over 30 days, and we went to about 4 or 5 different countries, to a lot of different cities, and, traveling between food and all that type of stuff, accommodation. And I think I'd probably, just for myself, I'd probably spend just over $10,000 if I had to be including everything, including insurance and travel and all that type of stuff. So $40,000 per person for a 13-day trip in Europe. Some things just don't add up, right? Some things just don't add up. And it's ridiculous that the people that vote these people in are struggling to provide for their families, but they want to go overseas and do a study tour. The reason why I'm doing this is because I do not believe it is a study tour. I believe they might go do certain work on certain days, but the rest of the time they'll be sightseeing, they'll be partying, they'll be having a few drinks and relaxing, and it's going to be like a paid holiday. But for 40 grand, that is ridiculous. And I hope people around Australia see this. If you do see this, ask the people wherever you live, because I feel like this happens in more than one council. This is probably the only council that has stood up and said, no, this doesn't sound right. We don't want this to go on. So let's have a bit of a read here. So this is from the Daily Mail in Australia. A local council spark outrage over plans to send staff on an all expenses paid European study tour that would cost taxpayers up to $40,000 per person. The council in Western Sydney at Penrith will on Monday night flag the approval of plans to send several staff on a 13-day trip through Europe in late August. Mayor Tricia Hitchin. First of all, if you know this person, if you know this mayor, you should remember this. Next time there's a voting going on, or, let's say a normal council meeting or something, you should try and ask her about this, because she would have okayed this. She would have been like, yeah, run it through, thinking no one would actually flag it. Deputy Mayor Todd Carney are among the group that would be flown overseas. Of course, they just want like a paid holiday. Let's be real. The trip, dubbed Unlocking the Aerotropolis International Study Tour, has been condemned by anonymous Penrith Council, the sources have reported. The source have claimed the move is out of touch with ratepayers struggling to make ends meet. Yes, as many people do overseas, in the UK, in America, everywhere around the world, people are struggling with the cost of living. So it's a 10 to 13 day tour with an itinerary focus on first-hand experience and observation of cities that have a second international airport, the association connecting rail infrastructure, the surrounding cities, and industry mix, residential density mix. What are they going to do? Right, let's be real. They're going to go look at these cities, and they're going to be like, oh yeah, look at what they're doing here. Let's remember that these cities they're going to, these European cities, they're not new cities like Sydney, right? Sydney is a very new city when it comes to, you know, the history of the world. If you go to London or something like that, these cities have been around for hundreds upon hundreds of years. So their infrastructure is way different. To compare it to what Sydney's is, it's not fair, because Sydney was built much later. So there's no point in even looking at this. And first of all, this is not even their job. If anyone's going to be looking at it, it should be engineers, not freaking mayors. What are they going to do? Let's be real. It'll provide opportunity for relationship building, having a few beers, wines with them, both with overseas networks and council, they said. An itinerary is yet to be set based the ability to secure appropriate connections, but would broadly include visits to Amsterdam, United Kingdom, and Paris. So they don't even have the connections yet, but they want to strengthen these relationships. Oh my lord. The local Jared Akich said it was unfair that councillors and staff were planning taxpayer-funded trips to Europe while locals were facing difficult times. We are in a cost of living crisis, he says. It is completely unfair. I am trying to save to go to Europe. You don't see me asking for Penrith to pay for it. Exactly. And like, if you are planning this, I believe that you should run it over with the people, your constituents, the people who vote you in, right? And you could imagine the backlash. If they go to just normal people on the street and say, hey, we're going on to a 13-day tour to Europe. It'll cost between $25,000 to $40,000 per person that's going, because we want to look at, you know, cities with second airports. But you guys are paying for it, by the way, just letting you know. No one would vote in favor for it. Maybe a couple of people would, who's probably friends of theirs, but that's about it. Let's be real. I just want to point this out because in case if you live close to there, you know people that live there, please let them know about this, because I'm not sure if this is being reported on TV news or anything like that. I haven't heard of anything of that. So hopefully this falls through, the flagging happens, people find out, and they maybe go down to their local council and say, this is not happening on my watch. You can see another local, Sarah Phillips, said the council could instead spend the money on improving local infrastructure and services. Exactly. I don't see the merit in our money being used for a study tour. Study tour. Why does it have to be our money being used? 100%. 100%. Save your own freaking money and go and travel overseas when you feel like it. Going to Europe is not going to help your city. I can 100% guarantee that. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Does this happen wherever you live around the world as well? And maybe is it maybe a different system over there? Do they have to run it through with the local people first before they can even plan it? Or is it just kind of all behind doors? As I know that most politicians do things, right? It's always dirty games. Let me know in the comments below. Like the video if you did like it, and also subscribe to see future videos. And tune in for the second video as well, which I'll probably post in about 4 hours. And yeah, hopefully you enjoy it. See you later.